I'm currently off the rocky coast of Maine, heading toward the island of Matinicus, alone. My Egyptology professor, Dr. Hargrove, was always recounting his trips to northern Africa in the 1930s and his search for a mystical water clock from the dynasty of the pharaoh Ramses. The clock supposedly had powers to grant everlasting life. Claimed he found it once, but whatever Hargrove found mysteriously disappeared after a visit by the expedition's patron, Tess Conway. I've picked up the trail where Hargrove left off. It has led me to heiress Tess Conway's island estate. Tess was obsessed with the occult. Her greed drew her toward Duncan DeVries, the debonair two-bit smuggler. In its heyday, the Conway estate hosted wild, extravagant parties. It has been deserted for decades. Tess and her society friends disappeared in 1932 on the night of the summer solstice. I'm just getting my first glimpse of the house. The weather's getting worse, but I'm almost ashore. I fear my life may be in danger, but I have come prepared. That's strange. My watch has stopped.
Hello everybody and welcome to my post-commentary of Killing Time Resurrected for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm probably going to be one of the few people who's doing commentary for the game that actually has the actual experience with this game to a unique extent, because we did not actually own the 3DO, but we had a friend who owned a 3DO and we ended up borrowing it along with a couple of other games like Gex and stuff, and this was also one of the titles that my brother had played, and even though I never played it, from what I saw, it kind of left a bit of an impact on me that I never really forgot it. Then, to technically quote somebody else who made a unique comment on the story for this game, this is less of a whodunit, because it's clearly obvious who did. It's more of a howdunit, so we have to figure out how things kind of end up the way they do in this game. And more going back to the game itself real quick, Night Dive Studios have pretty much remastered the PC port of the game, which has a much better map layout compared to the 3DO version, but it allows us to use the 3DO weapons graphics and the 3DO actors, along with technically a couple of bonus PC enemies that were exclusive to the PC version. But I'll just point out the details as they come up within the game, and I'm going to be playing without any view bobbing or weapon bobbing, because I don't know, it's kind of a little bit dizzying, but also it'll be more faithful to the 3DO version in that regard. And currently I'm just double checking some options and details that I wanted to make sure are how I wanted them for this run. So I'll be, I had this save file kind of just made for fun. I hadn't actually made progress with it. It was more of me testing how well I can do in a single run, but I'll still be saving the other slots when I reach the end of the session. So without much further ado, let's get this session started for Killing Time Resurrected. And this is already a big departure from the start of the 3DO version, because here, when originally you start out pretty much already inland and outside of that shed there, but here we actually see we are indeed arrived on our boat and are indeed on an island. And for supposedly starting out and coming prepared, it's ridiculous that we only have 6 bullets, but that's where you're mistaken. If we actually hop down into the bottom of the boat here, we actually came with 76 rounds, so indeed that's decently prepared, but let's just commence into the rest of the area. I'm not going to be going after every single secret, but I'll show you where at least some of the ones are, especially ones for pickups like, say, extra shotgun shells, so hang on a second.
I'm gonna need you down at the dock tonight. We're expecting another shipment of arms.
Well, boss, where am I gonna put all this stuff? I mean, the storage room is almost full. I can't even walk in there.
Guess you'll just have to stash it around the grounds.
Well, I don't like it. I mean, booze was one thing, but guns, I don't know.
Quit worrying, Mike. Our new associates from Chicago will be here this evening to take the guns off the island. They will pay us handsomely for the arms. They have new contacts. We can expand. This is only the beginning.
That is extra effort in explaining why there's so much ammo around, but also why there's going to be certain enemies in the area. And here is also logical weapon placement, a crowbar. Which makes sense because this is a storage shed, but sadly we can't Gordon Freeman open the boxes like in Half-Life, because it's kind of well before. But yeah, so mention Chicago guys, so here's one right here. It's a good idea to try and conserve some ammo, but after a point there's so much ammo around, you really can't afford to use a lot of ammunition, even if you seem to be running dry. There's so much indeed stashed around all over the place. It's a very in-game explanation for why there's so much weapons around this place. We're supposedly just just an island estate, because this guy was literally wanting to smuggle and sell weapons around. And yeah, it's like, this here is a very distinctive experience to be able to have the 3DO assets in the actual PC version, which also, here's the first of the PC original enemies, the gardeners, who kind of just more funnily ambled around in the PC version and more awkwardly flailed when they would attack you. These guys actually try and clip you, which feels a bit more fitting than just this awkward flail that they would do. It was more funny than intimidating. Well, these guys are actually rather creepy because they are redone entirely from scratch for making them match the 3DO actors, which were in fact done by real people, as you saw from the gangsters and stuff. And yeah, like mentioning giving an in-game explanation for why there's a bunch of weapons around is the equivalent of who in their right mind ordered so many chainsaws? There's no trees on Mars for Doom 3, which is a heavy paraphrasing of that document or whatever in Doom 3, but same principle applies. Why in the world there's like somebody stupid ordered chainsaws? But back to this game. We just picked up the Tommy gun because the enemies actually have a chance of dropping weapons, so you can pick up certain weapons early if the RNG is nice enough to actually give you the weapons from the enemies that you kill that would specifically drop it. Like, obviously these guys will drop the guns, and there is an enemy type that will drop the shotgun, but that is the best earliest point to pick it up because, and like in the original Doom, the shotgun is the workhorse weapon of the game. And also, didn't mention it earlier, but this is the earliest instance of actually dual wielding in a game, but it's, you can only do it with our Colt revolvers here. This has a typical trappings of say Doom and Wolfenstein to some extent, but we have also a quick note here. This was a 3DO feature. The doors would actually slide open, but in the PC port, they just operated purely on Doom logic and sliding stuff. So only a couple of doors open in the traditional sense here in this version, because certain ones still do the sliding stuff, but those make a little more sense. And to comment, on the left side of the HUD, where with our health and stuff, like all those upper notches of the wing, that is all of the keys that we have to collect. And on the right is our other collection, which we'll actually get an explanation for right here.
Help me. Help me. Help me. Please. Gather my spiritual essence from the different symbols which lie around this island.
Which are called winged vessels officially, but yeah, so that's what we have to. We have a lot of keys to collect, and also, before I delve into further that, look at this. This is a lot more impressive compared to the 3DO version, which admittedly was very limited, but yeah, quick secret up here, but In the original, it was more of a basically just like we almost saw a small section of the entrance, while here we actually get to see, indeed, this is a grand mansion, which we'll be spending a lot of time in. And the best way to go about, I'm going to show you pretty much the best route to actually get everything done in an efficient manner. We have the island pretty much broken up into 3 sections. A center section, and yeah, we can't get in there without a specific key item. But it's broken up into center, west, and east. So right now we pretty much start out in the center section here. We have a lot of gardeners to bash in with the crowbar. There is another melee weapon, but we won't be getting that for a while. And the crowbar is decent, but it's just a little bit sluggish compared to the alternate melee weapon, which has a secondary function, but with how the game's designed, you basically are not going to be able to really make use of it. But it's stronger and faster, but it won't be until we get it not too late in the game, so that there's not going to be too many enemies we can use it on. I'm just going to pop these guys off a little bit. Gotta say, they make one heck of a gurgling sound when they die. Pop in here. Yeah, it's best to use your hit scan weapons against hit scan enemies, or just a bunch of enemies that are going to be fast and be able to hit you from multiple angles. Enemies will actually drop a combination of, if they'll drop them, they'll drop healing items and ammo. Which there is one detail that is missing that I'm kind of sad that Night Dive didn't include, but it remains a 3DO exclusive. At least I think. I haven't actually tinkered with the particular option, but I'm not sure if that would change anything. But in the original, the enemies would have a chance of not only dropping, like the usual stuff, they would have a chance of dropping a ammo crate, which you could open up and get a decent amount of ammo from. But if you're not careful, you can end up shooting it and make it explode. And sometimes it will eventually explode on its own. So in theory, although it's not likely, if you had a huge bunch of enemies and made that crate drop and you managed to make it explode, you might be able to take out a whole bunch of enemies in one shot. But yeah, it's just an interesting feature. But yeah, and also, the locations feel a lot more authentic here compared to... It's like, there's nothing overly wrong with the 3DO version except being a bit slow and sluggish. I got pretty good there for a second, but... Here, the outside areas they felt very cramped in the sense of they were more or less just made out of sharp angles and stone walls, while here we actually are in a actual small garden area that feels like an actual place. But not to the point of that it's uninteresting to explore, because there's plenty of stuff to find in here. Like, here's a little shed with the guys. But in here, it's not just a realistic spot, it's a place that has a lot of ammo stored in here, and another pickup for the crowbar. And another shotgun to pick up, so it's like, it's a good idea to remember these ammo stashes for later, because the fact is that if you're running dry on ammo and you technically cut out one area, you can go back to these stashes and collect more ammo again. So, with the hedge mazes pretty much cleared out, let's try and head into the mansion.
Help me.
Invitation.
Have you seen the weirdos around? I don't really need one, just let me in here.
Help me.
I'm afraid you'll need an invitation. This is an exclusive party.
What kind of party goes on with zombie gardeners and gangsters around? Get me in here.
Help me.
You're wasting your time. The party is for guests only.
Yes, miss, I can bash my way in if I want to.
Help me.
You know, a clever person might get an invitation from another guest.
But yeah, you cannot get into the mansion until you get that invitation, or the RSVP as it's officially called, so which will grant us access to the eastern side of the island. But we don't want to tackle that area until we've cleared out the western and central areas of Duck. Anyway, yeah, so there's not a whole lot to this western section, but it's where you get some of the essential items, and there is a winged vessel to collect here. And this is where we get introduced to two enemy types. Can't really qualify the ducks as enemies, but we meet the huntsman and two-headed demon poodles. Yeah, these guys are what Pinkies think they should be, because of the fact is that not only are they melee attackers, they indeed charge at you and really stinking hard to hit in wide open spaces. So this kind of makes they're a bit differently designed in the PC version, with the huntsman also looking very different and sounding very different, while the dogs pretty much are two-headed still, but they're made out of different breeds, and I can't remember what the different breed was. There's technically no reason to pop in here except to kind of clear out in order to safely get this super healing item, because the blue spheres will give you 20% health back, while I think the gold give you 50%? I can't quite remember. I know it's a decent amount. But also, the enemies have a chance of dropping, right there, red spheres, which will take away 20%, so going in melee has its risk-reward in just taking damage, but also of having a negative health spawning right on top of you. And pop in here to get some shotgun shells, because, just saw that. Yeah, having those dogs running around is squish. Yeah, the ducks were actually missing from. They were almost planned. They were almost fully programmed, I think, into the PC port, but they were absent because they were a 3DO original. I think they're more or less just alert you to the other enemies in the area, but they otherwise pose no threat because you can literally just step on them. Although that kind of gives the risk of having them drop a negative health right on you if you just go for the stepping on route. And this is the best way to deal with these darn things, is to have them in a follow them down a tall. Didn't realize there was two of them right there, but to have them funnel down into a narrow passage so you can get them, because of the fact is that they do the serpentine movement pretty darn well compared to any other enemy in the game. And in here we have a brief infinite ammo boost, so therefore we can just go in and guns blazing here. So may as well use the old Thompson here. These types of pickups weren't in the PC port, but they've been added here to give you a taste of what the vessels can give you, because the winged vessels actually grant you power-ups, although it's very limited use. And I forgot to mention that Ankh that I picked up is pretty much a Scream Nuke BFG. But there's only a handful of these things around the island, and you can only carry a maximum of 5. These dogs can drive you crazy sometimes. It's like one of my first original deaths was I literally backed off the edge and into the water because I was trying to avoid them and was just didn't really, like, I knew the ledge was there, but I didn't realize how close I was to it. which brings me up to the nice feature of this version is that you don't get sent back far if you die, because of, like, you don't go all the way back to the start if you haven't saved. You literally just go, because the checkpoints are when you enter a new area. So if you hadn't done much progress in the area and you get killed, then it's not too big of a loss. You'll just start right back where as when you enter the area, which is handy. So you don't have to save every single time, or every single minute you want to do something. Although, in a sense, it is still good to try and save so you don't lose a substantial amount of progress, but you won't lose all progress. So, like, if you've gone through, like, several dozen areas and you die late... Hang on a second.
This will be the perfect base for our operations. Not too far from the mainland, but private. And the Conway's name is like gold.
What makes you think that Tess is going to go along with it?
So long as I keep her in gin and relics, she'll keep her nose out of our business.
What makes you think a blue-blood dame like that is going to marry you?
She will, Mike. She will.
Yeah, well, just remember, you're just a common bootlegger. Hey.
Don't ever call me that! I'm a businessman.
Sure. Anyway, as I was gonna say, yeah, so like if you made like substantial progress, there's me getting hit by a negative health. But yeah, if you make substantial progress by going through several areas and die, you will not lose all that progress, which is a good thing. But still, if you made it through like a heavy area and you're kind of nervous a bit and you want to save to not lose the progress in that area, so still a good idea to save somewhat frequently. But if you're a decent enough player, you don't have to save nearly as much as you would think you would have to. And in here we just entered the section that houses the RSVP, so just have to work our way through it in order to be able to find the thing. And it's in the hunter's cabin. I forget where the RSVP was in the original, but it was put in a more interesting location here, just to have a heck of a lot of hunters and dogs to deal with. And the enemies can infight, and I think those two were blasting each other for a moment, but I think I interrupted it. Yeah, like, literally, and it's not often, but yeah, you will occasionally catch some enemies actually infighting like they do in other games if they hit each other enough. And this is another spot where you have to be really careful, because these guys are sneakily placed, and I want to draw them in here so I can get a good shot at them, because there's still some items that you don't want to end up shooting because you'll end up wasting the pickup. Yeah, a second. Draw these two over. Yeah, using the Thompson on these dogs in here makes it a bit easier to deal with. But yeah, in here we find ammo for a weapon we don't have yet, and we find Molotov cocktails. Granted, it's just the one here, but they do have actual boxes of them, so you can pick up more. It's like, yeah, like each weapon type has a small and large pickup type. Now we just picked up a fuel canister. And here leads us to, I believe, the Caverns of Metinnicus, I think the place is called. Let me double check here. Not in there yet, actually, hang on. But yeah, the map is also a lot better in here, because for some reason the PC version starts out like super zoomed in unless you know that the plus and minus key. Yeah, Metinnicus Caverns. But yeah, like here the map is actually zoomed in at a decent level here in the remaster, whereas before, like in the PC port, unless you knew to hit the minus key to zoom out, it's basically worthless. But here it's actually it's actually considerably easier to read without really having to zoom in or out as much, because you get a better layout of your immediate surroundings and not just right on top of you. Yeah, they tend to hide the enemies behind corners and into these little nooks and crannies so they can more surprise you than you surprise them. Maybe another instance of enemies actually dropping their weapons and allowing you to get the ammo. And trees make it. The trees are shoot through because while you can use them to block the enemies from being able to approach you, it won't stop enemies from being able to blast you through the trees. But by the same token, you can blast them through the trees. And there's an instance of when the dog just could not get to me because I was hung up on the tree, which is a good thing. Ducks are just annoying. They're more distracting than anything. But there's a bunch of enemies in here, and very rare occurrence of bats, which are very easy to deal with. Because I can't seem to actually get out of these locations and duck in here. Darn thing is pretty much a jump scare when I do it like that. And like this is one of those substantial stashes that you want to remember if you've basically exhausted all other ammo stashes. Try and deal with them around the corners as much as possible. Made it through without a scratch. Yeah, it's like, I have no reason to pick up any of the ammo in here right now, but that is one of those secret ammo stashes that is just goo gobs of ammo to refill your stores when you absolutely need them in an emergency. And an important feature, all the enemies you kill stay dead. So therefore, if you've cleared out an enemy and you know that you've left behind a stash of ammo like that in an area like this, you can just go back without a worry. You just have to... You might have trouble remembering exactly where the stash is, but you can at least search at your leisure and not have to worry about too many enemies, except maybe a straggler or two once in a while, because it's hard to kill every single enemy in also, it's very difficult to shoot these things from higher up, although it's kind of recommended to do so, because then it means that they can't get you. I think I just saw him. Yep, there he is, right through the tree there. And then, there are two of them, but sometimes, yeah, them shooting and missing, you can still spot their muzzle flash, which can help give them away in circumstances like this, because, ow, it's very dark in here. I didn't even see him because he was hiding in the trees. Now, yeah, here's the hunter's cabin, and before we go in, we want to clear out the enemies that are around it. See, that's what I mean by servant time, just zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. Darn, it's like the slow guys that, like the slower enemies do try and do it, but these guys just walk at a very brisk pace. Good thing I turned around when I did. Pop you for good measure. Don't know why, it's just fun to blast the ducks. Yeah, you can live. And so now we get to take care of you before we actually get inside. But yeah, I have a little entrance spot here, and now here is a hunter's lodge, or a cabin, or whatever. It feels more like a lodge than than what I would qualify as a cabin. But yeah, okay, this is a fancy place. Like, look at all these books here. Don't know if them are good reads, but one thing I haven't commented on because we haven't experienced it much, but this game certainly has a very distinctive soundtrack. And this has quite the fun tunes at times. Although sometimes certain ones are they are just odd choices. It's like, they don't necessarily not fit, but one track in particular is just very weird in where it's placed, because otherwise most of the music fits the location you're into some movie. One thing I should address real quick is the enemy types and their replacements. Yeah, like here, well, obviously we're in the hunter's cabin, so therefore we're going to be fighting a bunch of hunters, and although them having the poodles as their hunting dogs is kind of odd, but in the location sense, it makes sense that this place would get packed full of these particular guys, which is, regardless of the difficulty you're playing on, you never really encounter enemies in areas that they shouldn't be, which is unique compared to, say, the likes of the original Doom and Doom 2, where you start, where depending on what difficulty you're playing, like say you're playing on like here's the RSVP. Have to get from a specific angle, but I love that little jingle it gives you. But anyway, for Doom and Doom 2, if you're playing like on the highest difficulty, you will encounter more enemies and the stronger enemy variants earlier on. So like say if an enemy, it makes for a unique experience in that sense, because like even Quake does this, where if you play on higher difficulties, you will encounter a lot of tougher enemies a lot sooner than you would if you were to play on a normal difficulty. But it's not so here. Enemies are literally assigned to specific locations, so you will never find a huntsman or these poodles in an area where they won't belong or fit in, so to speak. So therefore, you will end up encountering enemies you'll only encounter when you're in these like particular settings. There's only one other area that actually has the gardeners, because we've pretty much cleared out all of the areas where these guys show up in. While the hunters and the dogs, we have not seen the last of these suckers, although just encountered a new enemy. A wasp, or bee. I'm not sure what type of bug that is, but also a PC exclusive enemy. A brute. You can technically tell the PC exclusive enemies from the 3D actors, because the fact is they look just like they're like, ow, stinking. Yeah, those bugs are annoying because they can literally sneak up on you from the air. No, this is, I hear the cat. But yeah, like the PC enemies, although when playing with the 3D actors, they certainly were trying to make them look, they still look, it's hard to describe how they look, but they still certainly stand out with how they appear and are animated. But I still like how they're looking here better than they do in the PC version. I don't know, just the PC, like I certainly like the map layout of the PC version, but I just don't care for the look of the enemies from the PC version. But here is where we get to find our first winged vessel in this lighthouse. Might not look like much of a lighthouse, but it is what it is. And yeah, we have like the most pitiful piddly jump here, but there is a path over here that I almost forgot about that allows us to get up here and actually collect some items and stuff. One thing is that you can one thing that I technically like about the flying enemies to some extent compared to, say, if you're in a huge area and you blast a Kako demon with a shotgun and there's plenty of room, they'll just go flying off into the ether non-stop, while these guys will fly back and getting stunned to death. But yeah, like these guys will fly backwards when hit with a strong enough shot, but they will stop mid-flight and resume their proper course. And so, like, the main bridge here to actually get to the lighthouse is gone, but there is a path of stones here that allows us to get over to it, which is made simpler because of the fact that you no longer have to jump over gaps. I think that might change if you're playing on higher difficulties, but I haven't played on higher difficulty. I have enough fun on normal. But now we're entering the lighthouse, which is, gotta say, it's rather extravagant here. But yeah, we're now encountering the gangsters again, and thinking about it thematically, the brutes are pretty much their heavy hitter guys. And trying to get in here so I can get out of that corridor, because there's a lot of enemies inbound. And this is a rare case. It's hard to make melee enemies in the fight, but possible. Typically, you can get the melee guys to beat up on the gangsters if you get them where the gangsters can end up shooting them in the back. Shotgun is getting its workload done here today, and that's, I forgot to mention it before when I picked it up in the Hunter's Cabin, but that was a Scarebug defense, which is pretty useful in instances like this, because you can take a lot of hits, and having that extra defense is really useful. And gotta get in here so I can safely collect the Molotov cocktails, because yeah, like you get them, they'll explode in the flames right away, which can indeed hurt the enemies and you. Yeah, you can't hurt yourself with your own Molotov cocktails if you're not careful. But if you do that, they tend to set off a chain reaction, which means that you can't pick up and use them. And that's kind of funny. Like this was a authentic bathroom, but those toilets have bad spheres over them, which kind of says something to some people. Get here because that. Yeah, you see that in the background, that brute is beating on the gangster because he shot him a bunch of times trying to shoot me. And now they're just duking it out in some fashion. Then, of course, the brute just takes out the gangster easy. And despite taking all those shots, he did not let it go down right away. Not a whole lot to do in this section, except for pickups and clear out the enemies. Like, there's like just tons of this you. I think he wandered in here from earlier because the enemies can wander around. Now there's the stairs. We want to head down first in order to get something very special down here. And we can jump to actually shoot over stuff, and geez, don't know why he walked right by me, but that's still kind of scary when the enemies will do that, where they'll walk right by you or come up on you without you realizing it. The enemies have a hard time shooting over the boxes, but we can easily blast them if we jump and shoot at the right time. So I have to don't worry about too many stray shots hitting us. Like they'll wander around trying to find their way to us. Nicking him while you get a shot off. Yeah, more small canisters, which kind of indicates sort of the next weapon we'll be getting, and I looked at it there for a second but forgot to grab it. But I don't forget to grab it before I actually leave. But there's also one enemy that gets introduced in this area. Like this is like a small preview of the guy. But these guys are basically these guys are basically lost souls if they can spit fire. And this here is a nice little storeroom where you get a lot of ammo and more canisters and more Molotov cocktails. And I just realized that I don't think I have the weapon, so I start to realize I have to go around and get it. Which is, yeah, it's not a terrible maze, but it is awkward to get through. Because here it is, flamethrower. And it doesn't use any of the Molotov cocktails, although those are their own ammo. So we have two flame type weapons. One is pretty much a throwable grenade, while the other is just straight up flamage. Yeah, start with this little floor here, or at least this room on the floor, because you can't do much yet. May as well clear these guys out. That there is a winged vessel right there, and can't get inside it there, but yeah, that's one of the major key items that we have to collect, which actually serves a function. We have to climb all the way up to the top of the clock tower, beat this bozo in, and moving where I can hit him. Here. More flamethrower ammo, and pop this switch here, which then opens the door that we saw down there. And this room is a partial gauntlet because it does this where it has enemies on each side of these walls. And you can't... There, yeah, I can't actually I hit him from... if I decide to wander away rather than towards me. The shotgun does powerful damage. Here these guys again. But it's not just these two, there's a whole bunch of guys up there, and this increases our attack rate, so therefore we can actually fire a lot faster with every weapon. Therefore, it makes the shotgun a even faster death weapon. I knew there was at least one more. And this here is the ears winged vessel. I forget what each one specifically does because I tend to not use the winged vessels with how the game is designed. It's perfectly clearable without using any of them, except I tend to save the winged vessels for the very end of the game, because at this point they're just key items for me to collect, because even though they have uses where they can grant you many of the features that you can experience temporarily in the game, because yeah, just popping in here that shows all of our items like keys, vessels, and all of our weapons at the bottom. We have pretty much everything in regards to the weapons. And just saw you there. But yeah, we have pretty much all the weapons now, save for the one other melee weapon. But otherwise, we've cleared out this section of the island for the most part, except for the caverns, which we have to come back to later because we lacked the necessary actual key to be able to progress in there. So now we have all that we need to enter the mansion proper. And again, we want to actually clear out the mansion itself before we tackle anything else, because it saves a lot of going back and forth in time by doing that. But yeah, as for vessels themselves, they grant you the abilities that we've experienced so far, like the increased defense, the attack speed, and infinite ammo. Like, there are vessels that will grant you that for longer, but it's a quote-unquote one-time use for now. But we can increase that usage, but I still tend to reserve it for the absolute end game for one particular reason, and I'll explain why when we eventually get there, so that'll be a few parts from now. So right now we're just experiencing a mostly leisurely stroll back to the mansion now that we've gotten our first vessel. Then we have pretty much all of the weapons. We have our RSVP invitation, so now we can finally enter the Conway estate proper. And yeah, you've sort of getting some clues of the story by encountering those spiritual echoes, which were a unique feature, which were kind of the main draw of the game, was how it conveys a story through those brief bits of history. Yeah, just it is impressive on how, because this is completely misused somehow. Yeah, that's kind of a thing where sometimes enemies will wander around, but this is basically almost like entering the Spencer estate in Resident Evil. I'm just taking one last look around to see if there's any other meandering gardeners around. Yeah, this is just impressive. So, heading on in finally.
Help me.
Welcome to the Conway Estate.
About dang time.
Help.
Yeah, this is an impressive foyer.
Help me.
And he talks to us a bit more.
Help me.
If you like to smoke, we must insist that you use the lounge in the West Wing. But whatever you do, don't go traipsing around downstairs with a lit cigarette, or Mr. DeVries will have hysterics.
Help me.
Your suite is upstairs in the West Wing. I'll have the maid make up your room.
Help me.
Yeah, it's a door that finally requires the keys, and it sort of just briefly displays which slot it is.
Should you require a meal, the dining room is located in the East Wing. However, I wouldn't recommend a tour of the kitchen. The chefs there are quite temperamental.
Indeed they are. But we actually don't want to enter there just yet, because there's some stuff we want to see here first.
This is as far as we could drag it, sir. It wouldn't fit through any of the upstairs doors.
But Byron said it would fit. It's only 3 feet wide.
I believe he said 3 cubits wide, sir. A cubit is roughly the length of your forearm.
Fine. Then we'll open it right here.
Very well, I'll summon Miss Conway.
Oh, that won't be necessary, Robert. I want to surprise her.
She specifically wanted to be present when the crate was opened.
I thought I made myself clear.
You're not the master of this house.
Yet! But that'll change.
Interesting room.
Help me.
Miss Conway, I'm quite concerned about you.
Why is that, Robert?
Since your parents passed on, you've been taking up with a dark crowd. Though the parties and the merriment are only natural for a young lady, but your fascination with time and ancient things are quite irregular. And now that you're...
Poor dear Robert. You miss our old life, don't you?
It's not just that. But Tess, dear child, why do you associate with this DeVries character? He's not of your ilk.
Duncan is my friend, Robert. He gets me things.
It's exactly those things that worry me. He's building an arsenal in the storeroom.
Please, Robert. I'm tired.
And there are gangsters in the garden.
Well, hand them some pruning shears. The hedge is atrocious.
Green key, but that's the first time we actually see Tess in the past rather than in the present, where she actually talked to us for a bit there. But I will comment, these video sequences are a bit more interesting of quote-unquote lore dumps compared to reading documents once in a while, or most of the time, because you can actually get to actually experience the characters, not just through written dialogue. And that's a new PC enemy right there, because originally the only maids were these ones, and not these succubus type ones, whom are unique in the sense that they are one of the few enemies that are quote-unquote friendly unless you agitate them in some way. In which case, those ones are kind of intimidating in the way they stomp towards you. But yeah, like the other ones, you'll technically end up seeing it here in a moment, although I'm trying to avoid it, is that if you attack in their presence, they'll get angry. So technically I'm trying to, which means more ammo wasted in a sense, so trying to was inevitable there, because straight up saw it happen, so they see the aggression, it can start a bit of a chain reaction depending. But sometimes they just, otherwise they just basically just busy them. I just set off the hornet's nets in here. I'm in a corner. Yeah, you can see on how on how you don't want to aggravate them in specific circumstances, because if they're all around you, it can get quite hairy if you're not careful. So it's a good idea to try and keep these maids, the bugs. I'm getting pummeled. The bugs are tough and are more vulnerable to a flamethrower. My face caved in. Yeah, this area has become a mess and didn't want to trigger that just yet. Yeah, this area is very tricky, and these guys are really annoying. It's like, if they're on their own, they're not too bad, but if there's at least two of them, or they're surrounded by other enemies, they can become annoying because they are stinking precise in their shots. Man, enemies you tend to burn actually leave behind ash piles, which is a nice touch. I knew it. Yeah, especially when they're up close. Then that is one thing that is a slight detriment, is that apart from certain enemies making slight noises, most of them are just silent when they come up on you. And I technically opened that switch a touch too soon, because this actually caused a bunch of those guys to come out of a hidden room. But I forgot about that. So I was expecting it to open up a different secret switch, and I kind of forgot the layout for a moment. But yeah, these maids have a mean right hook, or more or less a jab, and specifically it's a right hook in the PC version.
Tess! I'm sick of Tess! I've lived my whole life in the shadow of Tess, and now she wants to live forever! Well, I am not going to spend eternity with her.
Yeah, this specific confrontation wouldn't have happened if I didn't flip that switch right away, because, yeah, they came out of, I think, yeah, literally just passed by it for a second there, but, yeah, there it is. That's when I realized it's right there. To open up a secret passage right there, and these guys will come out. So, when that wouldn't have happened if I didn't flip the switch ahead of time the way I did, because I thought it was a different secret switch. It's hard to memorize this area because it's a tiny bit confusing, but all these switches open up the secret doors. And I don't have nearly as much flamethrower fuel as I would have liked going in here. And the fact that I can get hung up on the walls is a little bit frustrating. Now I have to use... I practically burned myself alive with that. And the enemy didn't stinking die either. I just saw that Maid was trying to come in here. So, yeah, Maid will just stick to the shotgun for a bit. My health. Don't know where the Maid actually wandered off to, because I specifically got... Nah, never mind. You can, yeah, like, if you can take on these guys one at a time, it's decent enough with the shotgun, with sometimes one shot, but typically two shots. But if it's a whole bunch of them, they are going to deal with. Like, I have no idea where she wandered off to, but she found her way to me in that instance. It's difficult to actually avoid their shots because of how their wind-up is. Compared to other enemies where it's first major pick up the blue key, which allows us access to a bunch of, at least a couple of doors in the mansion now. And yeah, if you want to actually clear, you want to...
I'm but a humble servant, Miss Tewksbury, but I have served you and Miss Conway since you were children.
Yes, Robert, go on.
It is possible that your concern for Mr. De Vries may not be deserved.
Why is that?
I don't think Mr. De Vries has Miss Conway's best interest in mind. In fact, I think he's only interested in her money.
Robert, everyone is after Tessa's money. That's why she keeps us here.
Plot thickens a tad, but as I was trying to say, hang on a second, I have to collect my thoughts for a moment. Yes, right. All of the keys and a majority of the vessels that you can see there, the maid will clean you if you have a task. Then I just walk into a bunch of enemies again and change the action. But the thing is that all of the keys are within the mansion with a bulk of the vessels. So this is what I mean by want to clear out the island in sections. We've not actually fully cleared out the entire western side of the section yet, but we want to. This was a secret I was thinking of, because this would have given me infinite ammo to use a lot more freely and liberally against these enemies. I'm a bit upset that I didn't get to do that properly, hence why I even lost the bunch of the flamethrower ammo that I did. Just checking around for other items. Yeah, we want to try and find the yellow key later. We want to venture in that door kind of last, because that's where the last area is. And this...
The most remarkable thing about it is that it doesn't look like a clock at all. It's almost feminine in form. Its wide middle echoing a woman's hips. And the two handles reaching up, suggesting arms reaching to heaven.
And the figurehead is clearly Thoth. This has to be it.
I'm certain of it.
Damn things, they're impossible to kill.
It was an exceptionally large Blatta orientalis, very thick carapace. I'd try roasting it on the end of your cigarette.
Not bad.
An actual unique in-game way to explain that you want to roast those darn bugs alive. But yeah, all of the keys are in the the estate here, along with a bulk of the vessels. We've mostly cleared out the western section, mostly. Oh no, it's the clowns! Found bugs up for all of you. Yeah, these guys were like the most memorable part of the original version. They're kind of forgettable in the PC port, but the original guys, they are a lot more memorable because the fact is they are a distinctive melee enemy only, and in the sense that they will actually grab you and tickle you. Which kind of gives me one slight criticism, is that I kind of wish they would have brought over some of the injured sounds from the video version for the player, because the player character would actually make distinctive noises depending on what he's getting hit by. And just hearing the constant oof, that's the same as you trying to mess with a wall that doesn't open. It kind of loses some of the impact of where, yeah, the cloud came up on me there, and barely couldn't move there for a second until I killed it. Yeah, so these clowns are a lot creepier, where the other ones are just kind of generic. Like the only thing that made him interesting was the fact is that the PC version gave him a ranged attack. And divine health pickup there, which is, as you can see, gives us a 200 health. It's the only thing that's the equivalent of actually having armor in the game, because there's actually, like, apart from the... Hang on.
First look up and then look down. Never play with the naughty clown.
Darn right, it's either flimage or lead to the dome form. But otherwise, the only method of armor is those scarabs of protection in regards to where you're given a temporary increase to your defense rather than a lasting defense so long as the armor lasts type function. And that's a new enemy, which is never really addressed, but this one here you have to use Flame on to really get rid of it faster. So, there we go, got it into a decent enough spot where I can take care of it. Because otherwise it takes way too much ammo otherwise. The way these guys float around is kind of disconcerting, but also means that they can sneak up on you. It's tough to sometimes avoid their shots in some cases, but other times it's a lot easier. Depends on your range of movement. Was hoping to get a double kill there, but it didn't work out that way. I think there was, well, there's some stuff in here anyway. No, that was the secret door that opened up, so... Take care of you. I was like, yep, I remember that was basically a trap. But that is one annoying thing, is like, even though you've technically triggered the trap, the enemy will not want to come out of the room once you've triggered it sometimes. So this room has a fixed feature from the PC version. That pillar actually stood out compared to, this is where we get the yellow-orange key, not the yellow key, which would grant us access to a different, but still it's an important key to get. But yeah, that pillar was basically had no indication that you were supposed to press it in the original, which major props to the Night Dive Studios for this remaster.
Miss Conway is fond of entertainment, so the house never sleeps. At any one time, you'll find someone in the ballroom.
Curious thing. What do you suppose it means?
Lydia, don't you know anything? It's for playing shuffleboard.
Oh, I thought it was another one of Tessa's magic symbols.
Well, a mathematician would call it magical. You see, each row, column, and diagonal adds up to 15.
Oh, Byron, you can be such a bore sometimes. Ravishing, Tess, as always. One would never guess how old you really are.
Why, thank you, Lydia. And you've managed to hide all trace of your late-night carousing.
I was out late, wasn't I? With the rest of the youth. Oh, listening to Duncan's stories, drinking from his starry eyes.
That's not all you were drinking from. But I suppose you can't help it. You have inherited your father's penchant for alcohol.
Please, leave Daddy out of it.
I'm sorry. Poor darling. It was a tragic death. Did they ever manage to find the body?
No. The current must have swept it away when his car went over the bridge. Why are you laughing?
I just can't believe that he actually managed to wipe out an entire crew of racers as they rode down the Charles River. It must have been quite a sight.
Dad never liked to drink alone.
And your mother's reaction? Not a tear. She just up and joined the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Duncan wouldn't be in business if it weren't for them.
Yes, well, he'd better hope she doesn't show up here with her prohibitionists.
We just have to lock them up in the wine cellar.
Ooh!
Oh, I could dance all night.
I can hold you in my arms forever.
Duncan, darling, never leave my side.
And you won't. You're every woman I've ever dreamed of. I've never met anyone like you.
That's because there is no one like me.
Miss This place must have cost you a pretty penny.
My parents built it back in 21. I was the sole heir to the estate.
Ah, so that must have mean they passed on.
Yes, they were killed in a safari in Africa.
Oh. How terrible.
Let's go for a swim.
Well, not gonna take off your shoes? Okay.
Help me. Help me.
How exciting, Professor. So all these years of digging have finally paid off. Do you really think that it's the ancient water clock of Thoth? Oh, that's incredible! Byron tells me that it has mystical powers of rejuvenation. Really? On top of the sarcophagus? Oh, I can't wait to see it. 7 years? Why? But this is nothing like Tut. I would think that someone who had so generously funded your expeditions in the past would at least be afforded a little peek. I see. What a pity. Well, congratulations on your find. Keep in touch. Doddering old fool. I've given him a small fortune to traipse around dusty tombs in the hopes that he would find something like this, and now he turns bureaucratic on me. He won't even let me see the water clock, let alone have it.
Seems there's something in this world that Tess Conway wants, but can't have.
Don't tease me, Duncan. This clock is important to me.
You have an attic full of clocks.
Not like this one. Duncan? I'd do anything to get my hands on this clock.
Anything?
Help me.
This will be the perfect...
Help me.
The water clock was made to slow or even reverse the aging process of a mummy. It was placed over the sarcophagus, and a few drops of the dead ruler's blood was used to activate it.
But how can I use it? I'm not about to be mummified and shoved into a box.
No, of course not. The clock should work for anyone who activates it, live or dead. The problem is that the effect is limited to a radius of, say, 6 feet.
Marvelous. So I either lug a 200-pound artifact around or remain glued to it forever.
Not necessarily. You see, the clock was built by Thoth to revive Osiris, who had been ripped to pieces and her body scattered all over Egypt by Seth.
Yes, I know the story. Get to the point.
We could concentrate the power of the clock with mirrors and tune it to cover the entire island by distributing parts of your body.
Are you insane? Do you think I'll allow myself to be hacked to bits to test your little hypothesis?
No, of course not. It's not your actual body. We'll use symbolic objects. It's a simple ritual to transfer your essence to an inanimate form. And then
I activate the clock. The island and everyone on it will join me for eternity. Oh, Byron, do you really think it can work?
what can it hurt to try?
Ma, you've been busy. I haven't seen you for the past 3 days.
I'm sorry, darling. I've been completely absorbed in researching the water clock.
So what have you found out? Is it worth anything?
It's absolutely priceless. But I'd never sell. By the way, what have you been up to? Robert tells me you've been meeting some questionable characters.
That's what I've been meaning to talk to you about. Tess, honey, I want to expand our operations.
Duncan, always scheming. I suppose you'll need some money.
No, it's not like that, Tess. I want us to be partners.
How nice. Partners. What a novel concept. This is so exciting, Byron. Just think, we'll never grow old.
I was sort of relishing the idea of growing old with you.
I've planned a grand party for tonight.
You know, I don't think anyone understands me the way you do.
I've hired a troupe of clowns to entertain us.
You've been so understanding, so kind.
We'll have a feast and dancing and plenty to drink.
I think I may be in love with you.
Is everything ready for tonight?
Yes, I think so. I'm still fine-tuning the range of the clock. Each portion of you must be carefully placed.
I hope no one saw you. What would happen if someone located these objects? They contain my soul.
Fear not. I had them carefully placed. I had Angela watching my back to see if anyone was following me.
So, Byron, where have you been lurking?
I've been helping Tess with her latest acquisition.
I thought you and Duncan didn't get along.
Not that acquisition. The clock. The Egyptian water clock.
Oh, what does it do?
Well, under normal circumstances, it keeps track of time by regulating the flow of water to a series of uniform drops.
You couldn't use it to make gin, could you?
No. This clock is special. By using blood instead of water, and by reciting a few simple incantations, Tess hopes to envelop us in a mystical force that will slow the aging process.
Do you think you could slow down my aging process and speed up hers?
Well, no.
Oh, pity.
Lydia, you're up late.
I just couldn't sleep. I must look wretched.
On the contrary, you look radiant.
You think so? No, you're just saying that.
No, I always thought you were very attractive.
But not as pretty as Tess.
Don't bet on it.
Really? I thought you were in love with her.
Lydia, I'm worried. Tess doesn't seem the same lately. She's been very distant, very secretive. I don't know who to talk to. You don't know what's going on, do you?
Oh, Duncan, I wish I could tell you.
Tell me what?
It's Tess and Byron.
Tess and Byron? Be serious.
No, not like that. Tess and Byron are scheming together.
What? Tell me.
Well, I can't really say, but it has something to do with that water clock you obtained for her.
What about the clock?
Duncan, can't you see she's just using you?
Using me? How?
Oh, I can't tell you, someone's coming.
So, Byron, what's this water clock all about?
Well, it probably dates to the early dynastic period of Egypt. It's quite interesting if you think about it. When my ancestors were rooting about in the bogs.
That's very interesting, Byron, but what does it do?
Oh, I see. In layman's terms, it tells time.
I know that. It's a clock. But I mean, does it have any special properties?
Special properties? I don't think I follow.
Listen, you little worm. Tess wants that clock, and I want to know why.
Oh, those properties. Well, there are those who believe it has the ability to suspend time, granting eternal youth to all within its influence. It was first designed by the followers of Anubis, the jackal god.
Tell me why she wants the clock.
Oh, well, if you must know, she and I plan to use it to suspend time. Now let go of me. I have nothing more to say to you.
Wait. You and Tess just want to play mad scientist with this lost artifact? Is that what the secret is?
Laugh if you must. When the water clock is activated, Tess and her friends will be immortal. And you What will you be?
So, how's my little scientist? Are you finished with the Hall of Mirrors?
Almost. I've taken every mirror on the estate. Duncan is becoming quite curious. He's asking a lot of questions. I'm afraid he might interfere with our plans.
I can handle Duncan. He's served his purpose. It's time I let him down gently.
No, it's too soon. She was supposed to wait. No!
Kind of cutting my commentary short here a bit, but this clock gave us quite a lot of information. But that's all we have time for in this part, so see you in part 2.